Hey, I'm Bob Trask, and this is our weekly reset, where we come together every week to make sure that next week is even better than last week, and each week ensuingly gets better than the week before. Imagine 52 weeks of that, 52 weeks of having every week better than the week before. We do that by just having stair steps for relationships and all the different other kind of things that'll affect our lives. This week, we're going to talk about peace. You're going to really be excited about where we're going to go with this. So hang on with me. Let's start, if we will, with a meditation. Can we just please close our eyes and sit comfortably in our chairs with our lower part of our back up against the back of the chair and just relaxed? And in this very relaxed place, just begin breathing gently in through your nose, knowing that you're breathing the divine presence of the universe. Truly, you're breathing grace. You're breathing love. You're breathing that invisible and yet all-powerful force of creation. And it's going into your body and flooding down through every cell, waking it up, getting it smiling at its neighbor cells, so that eventually all of them are singing in harmony, and your whole body is alive with a vibrance. So beautiful. So beautiful. And that's you. That's you, precious one. So beautiful. So filled with grace. As we go forward into this day, let us carry this grace and this peace with us. Let us know that we have within us the ability to create exactly the lives we want. We only need to get ourselves, our ego selves, out of the way. And this is the place where we do that. In quiet meditation, where there is nothing here except ourselves breathing in the universe as the universe. So when you come back, please bring this self with you so that we can begin our work together. Thank you. Thank you. Today our subject is peace, because this is the first or the second Sunday in Advent, and the subject here is peace. So whether you follow any church calendars or not is non-essential, but peace is really essential, isn't it? You know, when we talk about peace a lot, we all want world peace, and we hope for it, and we pray for it, and yet currently there are 13, count them, 13 major wars going on our planet. One of the chief causes of those wars is our definition of peace. Our definition of peace, because we don't know what peace is. We all pray for peace and we all look for peace, but we don't even know what it is. The great poet and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson said, Peace cannot be achieved through violence. It can only be attained through understanding. Well, now wait a minute. If it can't be obtained through violence, then how come we're using war to create peace? It can only be attained through understanding. Then isn't it maybe wise that we should start understanding each other? We've always thought of peace as what happens when wars stop. But there have been constant wars since almost 17,000 BC. That's 19,000 years here in our human family. 19,000 years of almost constant war. Do you know that as many as 10 billion people have died in those wars? That's 2 billion more people who live on our planet right now. That's a tenth of all the people who have ever lived on this planet. And the main reason for that is because we've never understood peace and never understood the enormous power of love. We've always thought of peace as being the absence of war, the absence of conflict, but it begins at home, doesn't it? It begins with our relationships with one another. And if we see peace as the goal and use love rather than bitterness as our weapon, then we can create an enduring peace in our homes and an enduring peace in the world. Now, what do I mean by creating an enduring peace in our homes by using love? What I'm saying is that if we think peace is when we stop arguing, if we think peace is when we stop disagreeing, then all we're going to do is start arguing again, because there's an emptiness that we're going to fill with something, and I'm going to fill it with my opinion. And if it differs with your opinion, too bad. But if I love you, if I really love you, and if that's more important than being right, if it's more important that I love you than being right, then we can't have conflict. Then we can create that enduring peace in our homes. And the result might just be an enduring peace in our world. The wonderful author Laini Taylor said, peace is more than the absence of war. Peace is accord, is harmony. Even Albert Einstein steps in here. He says, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be kept by and achieved by understanding. You know, it takes a great effort to make war. It takes something out of us to engage in personal conflict with one another. And you know that as well as I do. When we get in a bitter conflict with one another, we say things and we hear things and we get ideas about how we are seen by the other person, and it goes inside and it lodges inside of us. It lodges inside of our subconscious mind. When I have an argument with my neighbor, for instance, and my neighbor says something I don't like about the hedge or the fence or the whatever, and we engage in a conflict, I don't ever forget that. It goes inside and it sits in there like an old sore. It sits in there. And that neighbor came out that day, and he or she was wearing a green sweater. And every time I see him or her in that green sweater, it reminds me of that sore, and it starts aching again. That's not peace. We go into a country and we bomb the hell out of it, and we kill a lot of people, and then we create what we call peace, and we think that they forgot about that. Generation after generation after generation after generation all remember that. That's not peace. We have to stop the conflict and start loving. Today, we're going to investigate ways to overcome that conflict, to use caring for one another to heal disagreements and disputes. Because see, if you had an open wound on your arm, the process for healing that wouldn't be to agitate it, would it? It'd be to soothe it, to allow it to heal and allow healing to take place. Unfortunately, in world affairs, and quite often in the affairs of daily life, we find open wounds in ourselves or in others, and we're frightened by them. So we begin agitating. And that's the result of letting fear be our motivator, our guide, instead of love. Letting our fears be our motivators and our guides. How often does that happen? How often when somebody disagrees with me, do I feel maybe I'm being discounted or dissolved or dismissed? And because of that, I become frightened. And so out of my fear, I react. And I cast against them. Well, what the heck's going on here? What if I said to myself, it's more important to be loved than to be right, and to love rather than to be telling other people that they're wrong? I'm not saying love is some namby-pamby idea. Let me assure you that when I talk about love, I'm talking about the most powerful force in the universe. We call it love because we need a name for things. We could also call it universal power, or we could call it irresistible force. Imagine with me that every country that becomes problematic is a country in trouble. Imagine with me that every problematic person is a person with a problem. Imagine with me that every troublesome person in my life and in your life is a person with troubles. Imagine that. That's an open wound. That can be healed. But if we agitate it, it'll only get worse. And it'll go inside and it'll sit in there and fester. And that's what's happening in the world right now. And oftentimes that's what's happening in our families. We don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to do that. If people had their say in the world, most dictators would never have made it into power. How can I say that? Because leaders get into leadership by scaring people. They tell them in other countries looking to bomb them or invade them or otherwise take them over. And they predict that the insurgent forces will be very dangerous to people and to their families. And since those leaders have the media through which they can foment their propaganda, they smother the country in slogans and warnings. America went into the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Iraq War, the Afghan War, each one being led and justified by such nonsense. Are there such threats? Yes, there are. Wherever in the world or in your family there's a lack of love, there's danger. A lack of sunshine and healthy air can create deadly black mold in your home, anywhere. A lack of love, a lack of caring, a lack of compassion creates the deadly black mold of suspicion, of resentment, of distrust in your relationships. And when that happens, people forget love and instead they get scared. And they start building forts to protect themselves. In families and teams, those forts are made of deceptions, secret agendas, gossip, rumors, and sometimes eventually lawyers. In international affairs, in international matters, those forts are made of armaments, of battle plans, deceptions, covert operations, building up of more bombs and bullets. In either case, the love is lost, and what follows will surely be casualties. And then the casualties will seem to be acceptable, to be a necessary part of making sure that we're safe. Wouldn't it be a lot easier just to start off with love right in the beginning? To just love. Think you could tell the ruling brass in the Pentagon that their best weapon today would be love. I can just imagine a battle-hardened 4-star general saying, "Oh yes, let's love our enemies." But Mother Teresa said, "The simple path, silence, is prayer." She said, "Listen, silence is prayer. Prayer is faith. Faith is love. Love is service. The fruit of service is peace." I want to say that again. The simple path. Silence is prayer. Prayer is faith. Faith is love. Love is service. The fruit of service is peace. Want peace? Then let's start loving. Then let's start loving. Because in war, there's never been a winner. It doesn't matter whether it's a war in your family. It doesn't matter whether it's a war in the divorce court. It doesn't matter whether it's war, between countries. There's never been a winner. There's never been a winner. How can you be a winner when you've got a bunch of people on your side that got killed and families are destroyed, and you've got post-traumatic stress that's going to go generation after generation down through the years? We call that winning. There's no winner. Both sides have massive casualties, and both are forever partially crippled. With love, there's only peace. With love, there's only healing. But for most of us, it takes more courage to create peace than it does war. We have to give up our greed, our need to take from someone else something that doesn't belong to us. We have to stop that. We need to stop raging and start meditating. We need to become humble, to get our big egos out of the way. We need to think of others with compassion and with the desire to help, to uplift, to enrich, to cleanse our minds, and to ask for forgiveness. You and I can be warriors of peace. We can be emissaries of peace. We can change our world today by changing our lives. Margaret Mead said, "Don't ever think that a small group can't change the world, because it's the only thing that ever has." So don't discount your own personal power. When you open the gates of love into your life and you dare to love unconditionally, love strangers, love your neighbors, love with forgiveness, people who do what you think are stupid things, they're doing their best. They're all doing their best. And they're not doing your best because they're not you and they're not me, but they're doing their best. And what they need from us is our love. Maybe not our agreement that what they're doing is right, but our love nevertheless. John Lennon, in his wonderful song Imagine, said, "Imagine there's no countries." It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion, too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. And he said, "You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And I hope someday you'll join us and the world will be as one." Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Let's go be peace. Let's go to the grocery store and let's see someone pushing their cart down the aisle with a frown on their face, and let's zap them. Hi, how are you doing today? You look great today. Thank you for being in my world. That's scary to say. Oh my goodness, what might happen? What might happen is that their heart would have a candle lit in it, and you will be the one lighting it. That's what might happen. Dare you do that? Dare you not? Dare you not? Because your life is going by. And when it comes to the end, will you want to look back and say, I made a difference? I brought peace to the world. If so, then join me. Because you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And I hope today you'll join me and our world will be as one. God bless you. I love you. If this message has been meaningful for you, would you mind going to my website, bobtrask.com, and leaving a donation so we can keep putting these messages out to the world and making a difference? Would you help do that? I so appreciate it. Thank you. And now, if you want to stick with us for the next half hour, we're just going to be chatting about peace and seeing what we can unfold in our own lives. But if you have to go, I understand. Go with love and go with peace.